Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 1 hour, UN Security Council convenes an emergency meeting to discuss ways to avoid escalation in the Middle East. UN chief says it's essential to avoid an all-out war in Lebanon. Also condemns the attack. Italian Prime Minister cheers the G7 leaders meet on Middle East situation. Israel declares UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres as persona non grata. Israeli Foreign Minister says the move is in response to his failure to unequivocally condemn Iran's missile attack. NATO's new Chief Mark Rutte says his priority is to step up support for Ukraine and bring it ever closer to NATO. Authorities on high alert in Taiwan for Typhoon Krathon. Offices and financial markets shut down ahead of its arrival. Key port city of Kaohsiung set to be in the eye of the storm. India celebrates 10 years of cleanliness mission, Swachh Bharat Mission. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says Clean India is the largest people's movement of the century. As tensions in West Asia escalate, Israel has declared UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres as persona non grata and barred him from entering the country, following his failure to unequivocally condemn Iran's massive missile attack on Israel. Oil prices too climbed more than 3% on Wednesday as Israel and the United States vowed retribution over Iran's biggest direct attack. Meanwhile, Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati said that Lebanon was in need of a ceasefire to end the intensified hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah, saying that about 1.2 million people across Lebanon had been displaced by Israeli attacks. Here's a detailed report by Dheeraj Das.
As West Asia continues to remain on edge, Israel has barred United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres from entering the country, accusing him of being biased against Israel. Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz declared Guterres persona non grata and said the UN chief would be prevented from entering Israel for failing to unequivocally condemn Iran's missile attack on Israel. A day after Iran's missile attack, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed retaliation. The Israeli military on Wednesday said that regular infantry and armored units are joining its ground operations in Lebanon, stepping up pressure on the Hezbollah. Already battling the Hamas in Gaza, Israel is beefing up its presence in South Lebanon in its conflict with Hezbollah, raising fears that the oil-producing West Asian region could be engulfed in a wider conflict. Iran said that its biggest assault on Israel was over, barring further provocation, but Israel and the United States have promised to hit back. Violence continued on the Israeli-Lebanese border on Wednesday. Israel's addition of infantry and armored troops from the 36th Division suggests that the operation may move beyond limited commando raids. An Israeli team commander was killed in Lebanon and a Lebanese soldier was injured in an Israeli drone strike in southern Lebanon as well. The Israeli military also issued new evacuation orders for around 24 towns along the southern border. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei made his first appearance on Wednesday following strikes on Israel the night before. Khamenei made no mention of his country firing missiles at Israel in retaliation on Tuesday for Israel's campaign against Tehran's Hezbollah allies in Lebanon.
The root of the problem which causes these conflicts, wars, tensions is the presence of the same people who claim that they want peace and tranquility in the region. I'm referring to America and some European countries.
Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian also said that Israel would face a harsh reaction if it did not stop what he called its crimes. Saudi Arabia too appealed for de-escalation and dialogue amid Iran's missile attack against Israel.
And it's unfortunate, the escalation that we've seen, but I will generally refer anyone who's interested to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because they are designated to comment on this. However, looking at the global economy as a whole, looking at our region, it is clear that we are operating below our potential. And operating below your potential is operating at a loss. And I think we can't afford to operate as a global economy.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer met European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in Brussels on Wednesday. The leaders condemned the attack by Iran on Israel.
We stand with Israel, recognizing her full right to security and to self-defense. We do need to pull back from the brink and to encourage all parties to find a way to de-escalate and for a political solution to the very many fronts of the crisis in the Middle East.
Iran's actions on Tuesday are being seen by a large part of the world as the carrying forward of an enlarging cycle of retribution with no end in sight. Not only Iran, apart from Hezbollah and the Hamas, are bracing for how Israel responds to Tehran's raining down of missiles. The entire world remains on tenterhooks. Even oil prices are streaking higher. With Dheeraj Das, Gautam Roy, DD India.
Has had a big impact.
And UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Wednesday condemned Iran's missile attack on Israel, telling the Security Council that the deadly cycle of tit-for-tat violence must stop. The 15-member council met after Israel killed the leader of Lebanon's Hezbollah and began a ground assault against the Iran-backed group, and Iran attacked Israel in a strike that raised fears of a wider war in the Middle East.
Yesterday, Iran launched approximately 200 ballistic missiles towards Israel. Millions of people across Israel and the occupied Palestinian territory were forced to seek shelter. One person was killed from the Iranian strikes, a Palestinian in the occupied West Bank. As I did in relation to the Iranian attack in April, and as should have been obvious yesterday in the context of the condemnation I expressed, I again strongly condemn yesterday's massive missile attack by Iran on Israel. And these attacks, paradoxically, do nothing to support the cause of the Palestinian people or reduce their suffering.
And the G7 leaders on Wednesday held a virtual meet on the widening West Asia conflict. G7 comprises of the United States, Canada, Britain, France, Germany, Italy and Japan. In a statement, the leaders of the group of 7 said that a diplomatic solution to the conflicts in West Asia is still possible. Italy is the current president of the G7, and the statement was released after Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni chaired a leaders' call to discuss the crisis. They expressed strong concern over escalation in the recent hours. It was reiterated that a region-wide conflict is in no one's interest and that a diplomatic solution is still possible. The leaders also reiterated their firm condemnation of Iran's attack on Israel. And my colleague Jessica Taneja now joins me from DD India's newsroom in Delhi for more on that. Jessica, let's look at the UN chief's statement. He was being criticized for not condemning the attack, and he clarified today that I had condemned the attack, and he said that I condemn it in the strongest terms. Will that soften the Israeli position and make any difference in how things are unfolding?
Well, the way things are at this moment, it doesn't seem so that Israel would perhaps even calm down when it comes to its reaction towards the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and his speech earlier, which somehow seemed to have calmed the tempers. But with the kind of recent escalation we've seen in West Asia, sidism has, of course, again creeped in. And with that in mind, it is somehow certainly difficult at this point for Israel to accept that the UN chief would certainly call for resistance and ceasefire, would talk about the Palestinians and their plight, but not so much so condemn quickly or instantly as per the Israeli sentiment at this point, when 200 missiles, ballistic missiles, so to say, were fired from Iran towards the cities of Israel in Jerusalem and central Tel Aviv. So that hasn't pretty much settled well with Israel. But at this point, making him persona non grata in Israel somehow will seem to be put in context in the near future. But at the moment, Israel does not seem to be pleased with how the United Nations Secretary General has responded to the current and the recent escalation we're seeing or witnessing right now in West Asia.
Okay. The G7 in a virtual meeting condemned the attack, but they said that they need to see that how de-escalation can be brought about. The UN Security Council, Jessica, is also meeting as we speak. What could we expect there?
Well, the meetings are still ongoing. You've heard from various leaders talk about the fact that there has to be a ceasefire and immediate cessation of hostilities that we're witnessing at this point. While the meetings that we saw between the G7 leaders as well pretty much has been committing at this point to de-escalate tensions, to look for a possible ceasefire plan. And in fact, there was one ceasefire plan laid out for 21 days, which of course now is down in the dumps because of the recent escalation we've seen in the last 2 weeks. So that has of course not worked out, but potentially looking at how the hostilities can be reduced and how the region can be stabilized so that the global order is not disrupted in the way it would if this current escalation goes and spreads to a wider region.
Absolutely. We leave it there. Jessica Taneja, many thanks for joining us for the moment. And in the backdrop of Iran's attack on Israel, several countries across the world have heightened security around Israeli embassies and their countries. In India, security has been beefed up outside the Israeli embassy in New Delhi, keeping the sensitivity of escalation in mind. Delhi police teams have been deployed and personnel are on high alert in the Chanakyapuri area. In Sweden, security around the Israeli embassy was heightened and police presence increased after shots were fired outside the embassy on Tuesday. Swedish police said that they have the footage of the incident and investigation is underway. Meanwhile, Danish police detained 3 people after blasts near the Israeli embassy. 2 of the men were apprehended on a train at Copenhagen's main railway station, while the 3rd man was detained elsewhere in the Danish capital shortly after the blasts. The 2 hand grenades caused the explosions had caused some damage to the building, which is about 100 meters away from the embassy. And still to come up on DD India Newshour, India and the world observe the International Day of Non-Violence in honor of the 20th century prophet of non-violence, Mahatma Gandhi. Swachh Bharat Mission completes 10 years. Prime Minister Modi leads the celebrations. Indians around the world pay tributes to beloved Bapu as the day marks the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. As the date of the US presidential polls is coming closer, the campaigning is getting hotter by the day. We take a look at US vice presidential debate between the 2 contenders and also how Donald Trump is slamming his rivals while US President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are reaching out to those affected by the storm Helene in the country that's seeing an election which is as of now too close to call. The next report examines the fine print of what all happened on the campaign trail of the US polls.
US vice presidential contenders J.D. Vance and Tim Walz took to the stage for a live TV debate just weeks before the election, with polls suggesting a close race for the White House. The leaders got thumbs up from their respective party members. Democratic Senator of Arizona Mark Kelly said Walz made perfectly clear where Trump and Vance stand on women's rights and blamed them for allowing women to die across the country, while Trump's advisor Jason Miller said Vance and Trump would make the country safer, adding that Vance showed that their vision would save the United States.
100%. I think he hit the grand slam on that issue, made it perfectly clear to the American people where Donald Trump and J.D. Vance stand, and that is they do not stand with American women, and it is putting women at risk.
We're not going to be able to bring down the cost of groceries or bring down the cost of gas. We're not going to be able to make our communities safe. But that's exactly what J.D. Vance and Donald Trump will do. They will make our communities safe. The other thing, too, I think what was exposed tonight is that Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, they're all slogans.
With no more debates planned, the standoff allowed Walz and Vance to make their arguments on behalf of their campaigns just as early voting ramps up across the country. Meanwhile, US Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump held a campaign rally in Wisconsin on Tuesday. Trump promised to bring peace in the world if he wins November 5th presidential election.
We will restore light and hope, and I will make America safe again. On day one of my new administration, the invasion ends and the deportation begins.
While US President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are visiting areas devastated by Hurricane Helen, the duo's visit comes after their election rival, Donald Trump, turned his campaign towards blaming them for poor handling of the disaster. Bureau Report, DD India.
Updates now from the Russia-Ukraine battlefield. For Ukraine, the situation at the front lines is tense and grim. Moscow forces have been steadily advancing in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region and on Wednesday claimed complete control of a small mining town of Volodar. Ukraine is now focused on boosting its military production. Speaking to executives from numerous foreign arms manufacturers in Kyiv, Ukrainian president stated that the country has the capacity to produce 4 million drones annually and is rapidly increasing the production of other weapons.
The general quantity of drones that we are able to produce in Ukraine annually is 4 million. More than 1.5 million drones were contracted to be produced. In extremely difficult conditions of the full-scale war under constant Russian strikes, Ukrainians were able to produce a virtually new defense industry.
And while taking charge at the NATO headquarters, NATO's new Chief Mark Rutte has voiced strong support for Ukraine.
Priority is to step up our support for Ukraine and bring it ever closer to NATO. Because there can be no lasting security in Europe without a strong, independent Ukraine. I know from personal experience with the downing of flight MH17 in 2014 how conflict in Ukraine is not contained to the front lines. So we must do our part.
French President Emmanuel Macron on Wednesday said that he supported the European Commission on the issue of tariffs on imports of electric vehicles made in China. He said that Europe must defend its industries against competition from abroad.
I have a suggestion. When both US and China doesn't respect the rule, we should not be the only one in the room to just buy the book. Because it doesn't fly. This is why I don't suggest to become protectionist. This is an awful word. But at least to be fair with our industry, with our farmers, with our people, meaning we have to preserve the level playing field. And when you deal on the same market with people competing with you, with such a level of subsidies which completely makes the market unbearable for your own player, you have to correct it. This is why I do support the Commission on electrical vehicles with China.
On the occasion of Mahatma Gandhi's 155th birth anniversary, India is continuing its journey towards a cleaner and more sustainable country under the Swachh Bharat Mission. Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi urged citizens across the country to actively participate in the Shramdan or for Swachhta by dedicating 1 hour every day to cleanliness efforts. Take a look at this report.
The Swachh Bharat Divas celebrations at Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi were graced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, highlighting India's remarkable journey towards improved sanitation, innovative waste management and climate-resilient infrastructure. Key innovations showcased during the event included waste-to-energy initiatives, which have emerged as powerful solutions to the growing waste management challenges. The Swachh Bharat Divas event also saw the inauguration and foundation stone laying of multiple sanitation and cleanliness projects under key initiatives such as Govardhan, Amrit and the National Mission for Clean Ganga. These projects are focused on waste management, recycling and building climate-resilient sanitation systems to drive India towards a cleaner future.
आज के इस महत्वपूर्ण पड़ाव पर आज स्वच्छता से जुड़े करीब 10,000 करोड़ रुपए के प्रोजेक्ट्स की भी शुरुआत हुई है। मिशन अमृत के तहत देश के अनेक शहरों में वाटर और सीवेज ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट बनाए जाएंगे। नमामि गंगे से जुड़ा काम हो या फिर कचरे से बायोगैस पैदा करने वाले गोवर्धन प्लांट, ये काम स्वच्छ भारत मिशन को एक नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाएगा और स्वच्छ भारत मिशन जितना सफल होगा उतना ही हमारा देश ज्यादा चमकेगा।
In his address, PM Modi acknowledged the strides made by the Swachh Bharat Mission, with over 55% of villages across the nation now declared as ODF Plus model. Additionally, the construction of nearly 40,000 kilometers of rural roads using plastic waste exemplifies the government's commitment to creating a sustainable infrastructure that not only addresses waste disposal but also supports rural development. As the nation celebrates Swachh Bharat Divas, the government remains committed to empowering local governments, strengthening partnerships and embracing innovations that drive long-term solutions for cleanliness and sanitation. The use of new technologies and recycled materials in construction will continue to pave the way for a cleaner, greener and more resilient India. As India marches forward in its mission to create a Swachh Bharat, the call for collective action has never been more important. Citizens are encouraged to dedicate their time and efforts starting today with an hour of Shramdan for Swachhta to help keep the nation clean and contribute to a sustainable future. Kriti Vadhera's report for DD India.
It's the 10th anniversary of the Swachh Bharat Mission. Launched on the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi in 2014, the Swachh Bharat Mission has emerged as a transformative initiative, driving significant improvements in sanitation and cleanliness across India. From construction of over 10 crore toilets and making India open defecation free, to significant reduction in number of deaths due to diarrheal diseases and processing solid waste at a large scale. This mission has achieved several important milestones. Here's a look at the 10-year journey of the Swachh Bharat Mission.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi taking part in a cleanliness drive along with school students to mark the 10th anniversary of Swachh Bharat campaign. In a social media post, he urged countrymen to also take part in some or the other such activity during the day and keep strengthening the Swachh Bharat mission. On August 15th, 2014, Prime Minister in his Independence Day speech called for cleanliness to become a national priority and urged citizens to join hands with the government. This led to the launch of the Swachh Bharat Mission on 2nd October 2014. which embraced a whole-of-government approach to make sanitation the responsibility of all. A target was set to make India open defecation-free by Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birth anniversary in 2019. In these 5 years, work was done on a war footing to achieve ODF status for the country. Over 10 crore toilets were constructed, and by 2nd October 2019, India was declared open defecation-free country. Besides, the cleanliness drive proved to be beneficial in several other fields. WHO estimated that 3 lakh deaths due to diarrheal diseases were prevented from 2014 to 2019 due to improved sanitation. A Nature study found that there were 60,000 to 70,000 fewer infant deaths annually due to SBM's impact. About 78% of solid waste is now processed, with 97% of urban municipal wards having door-to-door waste collection. The percentage of households with access to toilets rose from 45% in 2004 to 82.5% in 2019-21. Having achieved the ODF status, SBMG Phase 2 was launched with the objective of achieving Sampoorn Swachhata, that is, sustaining the ODF status and managing solid and liquid waste by 2024-25 and transforming all the villages from ODF to ODF Plus model. The result is astounding. Today, more than 94% states have declared themselves ODF Plus, and over 49% states have declared themselves ODF Plus model. On the 10th anniversary of Swachh Bharat Mission, PM Modi in a social media post said, "It is a momentous collective effort to make India Swachh and ensure improved sanitation facilities." He saluted all those who have worked to make this movement a success. Bureau Report, DD India.
And as India celebrates the 155th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, Indian embassies across the globe are organizing various events to honor the father of the nation. Commemorating Gandhi Jayanti, tributes are being paid to his timeless ideals of peace, non-violence and truth.
Sri Lanka's Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya and the High Commissioner of India, Santosh Jha, paid floral tributes to the father of the nation. The dignitaries offered garlands on a bust of Mahatma Gandhi at the Prime Minister's office in Colombo. The 42-inch tall bronze bust was a gift from India in 2019, commemorating the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. In Bangladesh, India's High Commission to Bangladesh, led by High Commissioner Pranay Verma, marked the occasion with an address highlighting Gandhi's enduring belief in peace, non-violence, tolerance and understanding as key forces for change in today's world. In Pakistan, High Commissioner Geetika Srivastav and members of the Indian High Commission paid floral tributes to Mahatma Gandhi, reflecting on his teachings of truth, non-violence and social justice. As part of the celebrations, they participated in cleanliness activities to honor 10 years of the Swachh Bharat Mission. In Japan, Indian Ambassador C.B. George, alongside the mayor of Edogawa City, Takeshi Saito, paid homage at the Gandhi statue in Edogawa. Joined by the Indian community and Friends of India, the event featured soulful renditions of songs dedicated to Gandhiji by school children. The embassy also organized a cleanliness drive under the Swachhata Hi Seva 2024 campaign. Meanwhile, Gandhi Jayanti was also celebrated in Rome, where Indian Ambassador Vani Rao was joined by local dignitaries and the Indian community. The event was marked by a moving rendition of Gandhi's favorite bhajans by Julie Dante, adding a special touch to the celebrations. Across the globe, Gandhi Jayanti has served as a reminder of Mahatma Gandhi's timeless values, which continue to inspire individuals and communities towards peace, harmony, and sustainable development. Amish Mahajan's report for DD India.
And the Indian community commemorated the 155th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi on Wednesday at the Embassy of India in Nepal's capital, Kathmandu. Indian ambassador to Nepal, Naveen Srivastava, and all other Indian officials paid floral tributes to Gandhiji. Ambassador Srivastava also felicitated the sanitation workers in the embassy on the occasion. The event saw the participation of Sur Sudha bands Saraswati Khatri singing hymns and presenting musical compositions dedicated to Gandhiji. And still to come up on DD India Newshour, an in-depth discussion on the escalating tensions in West Asia. From Americas to Asia to Europe, countries are witnessing the wrath of harsh weather patterns. Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness visits the world's oldest living city, Varanasi, in India.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. In view of the prevailing situation in West Asia, Indian Embassy in Tel Aviv has advised Indian nationals in Israel to stay vigilant and adhere to safety protocols as advised by local authorities. The embassy has requested them to exercise caution and avoid unnecessary travel within the country and stay close to shelters. The embassy has issued 24/7 helpline numbers to contact the embassy in case of emergency. You can see these numbers on your screens right now. These are Israeli numbers in Tel Aviv, where Indian nationals can get in touch with the Embassy of India in Tel Aviv. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar expressed deep concern on widening conflicts in West Asia. He emphasized the importance of communication to end the crisis and asked the concerned parties to move forward in that direction.
We are very much concerned at the possibility of a broadening of the conflict, not just what happened in Lebanon, but also, I referred earlier to the Houthis and the Red Sea. And, to some extent, anything that happens between Iran and Israel. So, again, it's one thing to be concerned. I'm sure you can say that for a lot of countries. If, as part of that concern, you can end up doing something about it, again, don't underestimate the importance of communication in difficult times. If there are things to be said and passed on and passed back, I think those are all contributions that we can make, and we do.
And to discuss the crisis in West Asia, I'm joined by Yashwardhan Sinha. He's the former senior diplomat. Thank you, Ambassador Sinha, for joining us. Let me begin by asking you the question that everybody is asking. What will Israel do? Will it retaliate? And if it does, how and when?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think that is the million-dollar question, really, because I don't think we can, sitting here, second-guess what Israel is going to do. All that one can say is that the matter has escalated. We are at an inflection point, and Israel is unlikely to take this lying down. Given past precedents, there is likely to be a retaliation. Now, all that we hope is that we do not climb the escalatory ladder that could have potentially disastrous consequences.
But Ambassador Sinha, wouldn't Benjamin Netanyahu be under pressure from his domestic constituency to be at least seen to be acting?
Absolutely. I think he will act. I think we can be rest assured that he will act. But the question is at what scale the retaliation will be. Because what Iran has done now and what it did earlier in April, there is a qualitative difference. And I think the reaction in April that Israel attacked, a very limited attack, I suppose it's not going to be the same. But however, as I said, it's very difficult to second guess what the Israeli leadership will do. Certainly there will be a retaliation going by past precedent.
Okay, you've been a career diplomat, you've seen many conflicts, you'll be closely watching this conflict. You're right that, we are only trying to second guess here. But what would be more effective in your opinion? Would they be hitting the proxies in Lebanon, the Houthis, or, the Iranian proxies in, say, Syria? Or could we see them taking out key figures in Tehran?
Well, they've already been, Israel, the IDF has hit Iranian proxies. In fact, that is the reason why Iran has attacked Israel, if I could put it that way, the missile attack last night. So I think the fact that they took out Ismail Haniyeh and they've taken out Sheikh
Mohammed Deif, they've taken out Nasrallah.
Yeah. The second rung, the military leadership of the Hezbollah, they've basically decapitated the Hezbollah, and that hence the reaction from Iran. So I think hitting at the proxies, and I'm certainly they will. In fact, they're talking about a limited excursion across the blue line. If you recall that in 2006, the UN Security Council Resolution 1701 determined that the area between the Blue Line and the Litani River will be manned by the Israeli army and the UN force, peacekeeping force, UNIFIL. Now, obviously, that is something that has to be observed. So we will have to see what the IDF game plan would be as far as Lebanon is concerned. But as far as Iran is concerned, I think the retaliation is going to be perhaps more direct. Certainly, they would hit the proxies, but I think they may decide to go and hit targets in Iran. The question is, what are those targets going to be?
And in your opinion, what could those targets be? Could they be energy installations?
There could be military installations. Certainly, that would be, I suppose, top of the list. But there could be many more. And, that is where I fear that we will then be sort of treading the escalatory ladder, which we should avoid, because nobody wants a doomsday scenario where, we sleepwalk into a global conflagration.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about the Iranian attack. Ambassador Sinha, you say that what happened yesterday was qualitatively different from what Iran did in April. Why do you say that? Because, maybe 200 rockets as compared to 100 rockets and missiles that were fired yesterday. But what is the extent of damage? And there are conspiracy theories doing the rounds that were the Americans already told that, well, we have to do this?
In April, there was enough signaling by the Iranian leadership that they are going to retaliate in a limited way. There were drones involved, countries, of course, the United States being the primary supporter, but even other countries like Jordan shot down some of the incoming drones and that were attacking Israel. This time around, I'm not sure whether there was any signaling. I'm sure they expected.
So the information that we have in public domain is that the Jordanians did intercept rockets coming in, and at least two naval vessels or destroyers of the US Navy did intercept rockets coming in.
That's true. The US certainly did. I'm not so sure about Jordan.
Okay.
But the US certainly did. And the US was very much part of the defensive. It's just not just the Iron Dome. You see the US Navy deployed strategically in that area. You have military bases there, fewer than they were before. And of course, Israel itself has been expecting some sort of attack. And that is why, but I'm not so sure about the extent of damage last night, but it appears the damage has been rather limited. And in fact, a large number of these missiles had been neutralized in the air.
Okay. All right. The hectic diplomatic efforts that are on, there is currently, even as we speak, there's a UN Security Council meeting that's on. What is your sense that how could it unfold in the coming days?
Again, I think we will, I'm not sure whether the Israelis are going to wait for a UN Security Council resolution because they have great distrust of the UN and they feel that the UN has been very partial against them. But the fact is that if the Security Council is able to pass a resolution without a veto, that would be an achievement. It would obviously be the lowest common denominator and of course everybody interested in trying and contain the situation and ensure that it doesn't escalate into a wider war.
All right. And given that America is in midst of polls, how could that affect the American reaction or the American involvement in the conflict?
As far as the US is concerned, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats, they have been avowed supporters of Israel and guarantors of Israel in that sense. So I think irrespective of who's in power, how will it affect the elections? Of course, one has to wait and see because I'm sure both the candidates will outdo each other in pledging support to Israel.
All right. Ambassador Yashwardhan Sinha, thank you very much for joining us. We leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And moving on, the frequency and severity of extreme weather events have reached unprecedented levels. Catastrophic floods and intense hurricanes are becoming more and more common, putting immense strain on communities worldwide. DD India's Rahul Upadhyaya brings us more.
Taiwan shut down on Wednesday, grounding hundreds of flights and closing schools, offices and financial markets ahead of the arrival of a weakening Typhoon Krathon. Officials issued warnings for residents to stay home and avoid coastal areas. The Taipei city government announced a second day off for Thursday, meaning financial markets will remain closed.
There is no guest, only us, older people, guarding the shop and trying to prevent damage. That's how it is.
Earlier, Typhoon Krathon unleashed heavy rainfall and strong winds across northern Philippines. The typhoon was locally referred to as Julian. In United States, survivors of Tropical Storm Helene struggled to piece their lives back together. Storm killed at least 162 people following its rampage through the southeast. Asheville Mayor Esther Mannheimer described the impact of the hurricane as unbelievable.
We have urgent need to bring supplies to people who are in desperate need of drinking water and food and other household needs, supplies for babies, for the elderly, cleaning supplies, those kinds of things that people need just to get by each day. And then we also have, a need to stand up our utility system again, our water service, power.
US President Joe Biden on Wednesday planned to survey damage from storm. Biden noted that the rebuilding process in the heavily affected areas will take years and could cost billions of dollars.
This is a storm of historic proportion. Nothing like this has happened in the region since the turn of the 20th century. I think the last was 1914, 1916, in that range.
In Nepal, displaced residents were left stranded on higher ground after floods and landslides destroyed hundreds of homes. Rahul Upadhyaya's report for DD India.
Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness visited the iconic Sarnath archaeological site and museum in Varanasi on Wednesday. Jamaican Prime Minister said he was pleased to visit such a historic and spiritual site, adding that this is his first direct experience with Indian culture and artifacts at the museum. Prime Minister Holness said that his purpose is to strengthen the already good bilateral relations between the two countries. The Jamaican PM was accompanied by the Governor of Uttar Pradesh, Anandiben Patel, and the Finance Minister of the state, Suresh Khanna. And still to come up on DD India Newshour, tennis sensation Carlos Alcaraz clinches the China Open title for the first time after defeating world number 1 Jannik Sinner. 2 women officers of the Indian Navy embark on a challenging expedition to circumnavigate the globe. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Amritpal Singh. In recognition of his profound impact on global peace and human rights, the United Nations declared October 2nd, Mahatma Gandhi's birthday, as the International Day of Non-Violence. This day serves as a reminder of Gandhiji's message and encourages individuals and communities to embrace non-violence as a means of resolving conflicts and building a more just and equitable world.
January 1948. In a moving speech before the United Nations General Assembly, Warren Robinson Austin, US Ambassador to the United Nations, hailed Mahatma Gandhi as the most powerful man of the 20th century, commending his unwavering commitment to non-violence and his inspiring leadership in the Indian independence movement.
It is fitting that we who sit here charged with the grave responsibility of maintaining peace among nations should pay tribute to this great Indian leader who over the years has done so much to bring home to his fellow countrymen the moral and spiritual lessons which are essential for the achievement of world peace and brotherhood.
Mahatma Gandhi, a name synonymous with peace and non-violence, led India to independence through a movement that reverberated across the globe. His philosophy of satyagraha or truth force became a potent weapon in the struggle against British colonial rule. The Salt March of 1930, a 240-mile trek from Ahmedabad to Dandi, marked a pivotal moment in Gandhi's campaign. By defying the British salt monopoly, he ignited a wave of civil disobedience across India. The march symbolized the injustice of colonial rule and united people from all walks of life.
First coming to grips with the great British Empire. India's national pride rose in revolt.
The Quit India movement of 1942 was a more radical phase of the independence struggle. Mahatma Gandhi called for the immediate withdrawal of British forces, urging Indians to do or die for their freedom. The movement was met with brutal repression, including mass arrests and widespread violence, but the spirit of non-violence prevailed. Beyond his role in Indian independence, Gandhi's philosophy of non-violence influenced the civil rights movements across the world.
In contrast to the violence of many marches, this one is held peacefully.
Martin Luther King Jr. was deeply inspired by Gandhi's philosophies and tactics.
Demonstrations, and he saw peace in Montgomery.
I remembered hearing a message by the president of Howard University, Dr. Mordecai Johnson, who had just returned from India. He spoke in Philadelphia on his trip to India and the whole philosophy of Gandhi and passive and nonviolent resistance. Now, I was so deeply moved by the message that I went away and bought several books on the Gandhian, on Gandhi and Gandhian technique.
Mahatma Gandhi's unwavering commitment to peace and justice inspired millions worldwide. His philosophy of non-violent resistance challenged the prevailing belief that violence was the only path to change. His legacy extends far beyond India. influencing leaders and movements across the globe. It serves as a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, it is possible to achieve change through peaceful means. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
And on the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, the Indian Navy embarked on a very adventurous mission at sea. For the first time, 2 young lady officers are circumnavigating the globe in the Indian naval sailing vessel Tarini. Vishal Baristo brings you this special report from the Arabian Sea.
Chief of Naval Staff flagging off Navika Parikrama, the second from the ocean sailing node of the Indian Navy in Goa. Waving to the crowd, Lieutenant Commander Ruka K and Lieutenant Commander Dilna K started on a unique expedition to conquer the rough seas across the globe, covering around 23,000 nautical miles in 8 months. A symbol of women's empowerment, this mission is a crucial part of India's military diplomacy.
This particular mission will certainly be an exposition of women empowerment, that 2 young women can circumnavigate the globe on their own and overcome all the challenges as the nature throws. It is largely the nature, and there will be many. We have trained them for over 3 years. They have sailed almost 38,000 nautical miles as against around 23,000 they have to do over this voyage.
Both lady officers have trained very hard for 3 years. As part of their rigorous training, they have sailed through 38,000 nautical miles in the past. This mission shall have no external support and depends only on the sea winds.
As Tarini crosses over 3 oceans and 3 very difficult capes, the message is very clear. New India is self-reliant and signifies women empowerment. With cameraman Ramakant and Panaji Goa, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, met with the newly elected President of Sri Lanka, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, today at the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo. Highlighting the importance of strong bilateral ties, Jha expressed India's commitment to support Sri Lanka's development efforts, aiming at a peaceful and stable nation in the region. He also lauded President's anti-corruption initiatives, particularly the focus on digitalization to enhance government transparency. The High Commissioner reaffirmed India's readiness to assist in these digitalization efforts, underscoring the continuous and stable relationship between the 2 neighboring countries. Meanwhile, an IMF delegation met with the Sri Lankan officials today to discuss progress in the ongoing IMF program. Both sides reviewed the program and outlined the way forward for future collaboration, including necessary steps towards the release of the 4th tranche of $2.9 billion financing package. The IMF delegation expressed appreciation for significant changes taking place in Sri Lanka, boosting the positive outlook on Sri Lanka under the present government. In March last year, the IMF had approved a bridge financing package worth $2.9 billion, which is available to Sri Lanka over a 48-month period. The 3rd tranche of about $336 million was released to Sri Lanka upon successful completion of the review by IMF in June this year. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a social media post on X, greeted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the people of Israel and the Jewish community across the world on Rosh Hashanah, that's the Jewish New Year. He wished the new year will bring peace, hope and good health in everyone's life. You're watching DD India Newshour. Time now for some sports news. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrote a letter to Olympic medalist Neeraj Chopra's mother, Saroj Devi, thanking her for the special delicacy of churma he received a day before the 9th day of the Navratri festival. Prime Minister noted that just as a special delicacy provides Neeraj with energy to win medals for the country, they will also empower him during the 9-day fasting period to serve the nation. In his letter, the Prime Minister reflected that the heartfelt gift from Neeraj's mother reminded him of his own mother. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Modi had met javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra during the dinner organized on the occasion of Jamaican Prime Minister's visit to India. India has continued to assert its top position in the ongoing cycle of the World Test Championship by fighting against odds to complete a series sweep against Bangladesh. India continued to sit at the top with 8 wins in 11 matches with 98 points and a point percentage of 74.24%. Australia and Sri Lanka remain the closest competitors to challenging India's dominance at the top. The baggy greens continue to breathe down India's neck in the second spot with 90 points in 12 matches and a point percentage of 62.50%. Tennis sensation Carlos Alcaraz clinched the China Open title for the first time ever after defeating world number 1 Jannik Sinner in a thrilling final encounter. Alcaraz started well and served the first set at 5-3, but Sinner dug deep to stay alive and saved 3 points, including 2 in the tiebreak. Sinner eventually won the highly competitive first set. The momentum continued into the second and third set as Alcaraz found the early advantage over Sinner. There was little margin between the top 2 in the final set, hence the 3 hours of tennis went into a tiebreak. Alcaraz was 3-0 down in the tiebreak with Sinner about to serve before the Spaniard produced a stunning fight back to claim his first title since Wimbledon. Well, that's it then in this edition of DD India Newshour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code that you see on your screens right now to download. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amrit Pal Singh from our entire team here in Delhi. Thank you very much for watching DD India Newshour.